Thank you, and it's great to be here in Miami. The weather is a lot nicer than in the Midwest, so thanks for having both me and Tony today. Really appreciate it. I'm going to be a little more, I'm going to be a little briefer than Tony was today, um, but we'll be covering all the relevant points from both the national and state perspective here in Florida. We'll hit on a few items we've covered in other states as well. And so again, just really appreciate the opportunity to be here with all of you today. So first and foremost, we're here in Florida, and the Florida Smoke-Free Association has a proven track record of success and is really well positioned for 2019. Like the 31 other states that are affiliated with us, they've taken a proactive approach in hiring a lobbyist and being engaged in a professional manner at the state level, and have really been a great partner for the VTA, one of the original associations that was with us at the start. So thank you so much for that. So a brief history of how we developed. So VTA was founded on three principles, and I don't think Tony hit on these, but three principles: federal level lobbying of both the legislative and executive branch, state level lobbying, which we started as the second portion of our program, and then public affairs. So we really have a three-step model for success. We started our state affairs program 2.5 years ago, and our goal is really to ensure that the vapor industry is defended by a professional team across every state in the country. So we started with 5 state trade associations. We've expanded to 31. And the most recent additions are the Rocky Mountain Smoke-Free Association, which is the Colorado Trade Association, the New Jersey Vapor Rights Coalition, and the North Carolina Vaping Council. So extremely excited about those additions, and very appreciative of all the states who work with us. So where we're engaged, we win. This is a map that we're fond of using in all our presentations and all our conferences because it really shows how we've grown. We have the Northeast on there because we're currently forming a trade association there as well. So we're in the process of that, and I just wanted to highlight the efforts of all the individuals involved in that as well. Because as we all know, these are not easy to get started, and really appreciate all the work and time, both financial resources and time commitment that goes into leading one of these trade organizations. So how we fought the fight. We've been really successful at engaging in a number of different ways. We've used a number of different methods to both pass and defeat legislation in states. We've written over 50 pieces of written testimony that have been submitted at the state level by state trade associations. We've created and executed, it's well over 100 calls to action now. This was just this year in support of the vapor industry. And then we've completed over 250 conference calls with state associations to provide guidance on lobbying, on strategy, on approach to membership growth. So we really have an approach from the beginning to the end with trade association development. We'll help you get started with your bylaws and articles of incorporation, help you hire and manage your lobbyist, and ultimately provide you the resources and tools you need to be successful at the state level. So many national successes to date, and I did not put every state on here. These are just a few of the examples that really took in-depth lobbying strategy. We do have some states, such as Tennessee, who are great at killing stuff right out of the box that involve anti-vapor legislation. But we really started our program by reopening the Indiana market for manufacturers there. So we completely rewrote the regulations in Indiana. We led that effort. We created the Indiana Smoke-Free Alliance around that piece of legislation, and ultimately a trade association that's going to be very successful today. We also removed the online sales ban in Maryland. That was actually passed into law. We negotiated an agreement to hold that, to not enforce it, so that we could come back the following session and remove it. IFAST, the Iowa Trade Association, actually put forth a preemption bill as part of a business coalition to ban local regulation of vapor products. That's significant. That's something we're going to be working on throughout the year. in multiple states as we look to put forth a proactive marketing and labeling and licensure bill at the state level. And then in Kentucky is one of many examples of taxes we defeated this session. In Virginia, we defeated several tax proposals before they even got filed. So just kind of a sample of success. Florida's also had many successes to date. And they were successful in defeating 3 different types of legislation this year. And I should say going into next year, because these are all relevant. The kind of categories of things that we're concerned about are first and foremost flavor bans, which we'll talk about in just a minute, taxation, which is starting to come in 2 forms, both wholesale and per milliliter, and there are some other concepts out there on that. One was just passed in New Jersey as the final point of sale tax. There was an alternative to an extremely high per milliliter tax. Tobacco 21 bills, which are coming in a variety of forms across municipalities. That's why what happened in Iowa with preemption is so important. And then lastly, what we're going to do with a proactive agenda in terms of a licensure bill with marketing and labeling components to push back on the flavor bans that we're going to talk about next. So what's on the horizon nationwide? So just kind of what we talked about, flavors and tax are coming in multiple states. Really the thing that has spurred this is what Tony talked about, which is why I knew better than to really get into detail in my presentation on it, but the FDA statements, the media coverage, quite simply state legislators believe that our industry is selling products to kids. We know that's not the case, and we have to do a good job of telling our story next session. So we are under siege. 400 active bills at the state level. 2 states last session. We're in between sessions for those of you who aren't familiar with the legislative process at the state level. Most of the time those start in the spring. Some states carry over, meaning they can hear the same bill in the second year of a General Assembly. Some restart. Some have split General Assemblies between budget and substantive bills. So really 2 states started moving a flavor ban last year, New York and New Jersey. Those are going to come back. Those legislative bodies and governor's offices turn blue. And we'll talk about the national political dynamic at the state level in a minute. But those policies are going to increase. And in fact, just yesterday, New York filed administrative rules to potentially ban flavors. So that's the first time, actually the second time with Oregon, but that was related to marketing and labeling. It's really the first time we've seen a flavor ban in an administrative action. So that's going to be interesting to work through that. Marketing and labeling restrictions. Oregon, again by rule, changed their labeling requirements to drastically limit label content with unclear definitions. Basically, if it's attractive to children, it shouldn't be on the label. The issue there is what's attractive to children, right? And so there are a lot of kind of undefined terms in that act, or in that rule, excuse me, that we're going to look to clean up through legislation next year. 37 tax bills directly affecting the vapor industry filed last year, and over 44 separate proposals on tobacco 21. So the flavor bans are real. As I just said, New York's executive branch, the governor, filed administrative rules to ban liquid nicotine products. We're currently engaged with the lobbying from there. We're going to continue to work against that, provide compromises. Tony said we're already looking at these issues at the municipal level. So in the city of Chicago, the city of Sacramento, I didn't get into even the local level stuff in these slides, but those are out there. We're going to see more municipalities move forward with flavor ban proposals, and so we have to be prepared with a responsible licensure bill, with responsible marketing and labeling standards in those bills. Again, the New Jersey bill was killed on the floor last year, but this year will be a different story because state legislative bodies are impatient by their very nature. They want to do something right now, and they simply view the FDA as too slow to act. In addition, they're given some assistance in their impatience by our opponents. So this isn't all of our opponents by any means, but it's a good cross-section. And I like to just show this slide so everybody understands kind of what we're up against. So at the State House, perception is reality. I put these products up because, these are items that U.S. senators, that state senators, state representatives, and governors all point to when they have concerns about marketing to children and youth access. And as Tony said, there are a number of things that we can do as an industry, and a number of things policymakers can do to curb youth access without banning the product. And that's really the key thing that we have to communicate at the state level as well. Just another perception is reality thing. I like these headlines because they really lay it out well, and these are very representative of what you see on a weekly basis. And our PR team, Targeted Victory, works night and day on your behalf to push back on these items, but there are a number of people with microphones saying stuff like you see on the screen here. So just something to be reminded of how important PR is, and that's why we're stepping up at the state level with the 50-state defense program, which we'll talk about in just a minute. I did want to give you a sense of the national political climate after Tuesday, because I think it's really indicative of what our industry is going to see. Really, our industry, from a legislative perspective, has been about innovation, small business, job creation, right? And most importantly, the public health benefit of getting people to quit smoking. This is what we talked about when I walked into the doors. But those four items are really our key driving messages, and those tend to resonate a little better with Republicans at the State House. They just do. And so when we're looking at the political climate, we have to be mindful of how that could potentially affect our industry, potentially affect legislative policy going forward. So primarily in the East and West Coast, these are primarily democratically controlled. You don't have to worry about writing all these down because I have a nice graphic next for you. But a number of these states still have moderate Republican governors, but it's unclear where they'll come down on our issue. So I like to say that our issue isn't a Democratic or Republican issue, it's a perception issue, it's an education issue. And so even in red states, we've had bills pop up, right? So it's not to say that the Democrats are out to get our industry, but it's just to be mindful that there are 14 states with Democratic trifectas, meaning they control the state House, state Senate, and governor's office. And here they are. So the blue are fully democratically controlled, the yellow are split, and the red are still Republican. So everybody can take a quick look at those. I did not count the territories. But this kind of gives you an overview of what happened on Tuesday, what the political climate looks like, and really what we're facing going into next session. So if you live in one of these blue states, or even one of these yellow states, or even a red state, I would suggest you get engaged with your state trade association now. That's extremely important. Legislators want to hear from businesses in their districts, and so getting out, communicating your message to the people who represent you is extremely important. So the current state affairs in Florida, the new Florida governor, although he did not reach 50%, is expected to attain victory in a narrow margin, and the state will maintain Republican legislative majorities. But to walk back and talk about different avenues that our industry can be affected in, Amendment 9, the indoor vaping ban that combined an indoor vaping ban with offshore oil drilling. When they, what we call log rolled those issues together, it really made it difficult for our industry, which is an industry of small businesses, to push back, even though a number of newspapers in the state actually recommended defeat of the proposition, defeat of the amendment, specifically because vaping was included, and they believed it should be regulated at the state level. And when we've been regulated at the state level here, we've done very well at educating legislators, coming up with common sense solutions. And so this is a setback, but it's certainly not the end of our advocacy work and our lobbying work here in Florida. So again, that passed rather handily. on a 69-31 vote. But the key thing to remember there is that that was combined with offshore oil drilling, which was really a lightning rod amendment put in by the CRC committee here in Florida. So with that, I thought we'd talk a little bit about how we're going to win in Florida and across the country going forward, because I think this is really important, and we have a lot of people here who participated in the program. So what it's going to take to win, it's going to take an unprecedented level of support to change the narrative we're facing at the state level. What's that mean? We have to have qualified professionals on the ground, right? Advocacy is great. Grassroots advocacy is great. It's an important part of a bigger lobbying program. And so putting professionals on the ground who know your legislators, who know your policymakers in the executive branch is extremely important. And I know there are a lot of people here who put their time, money, and resources into doing that in their states, and those states have been successful, and we have to continue to do that in approximately 40 total states next session. So I'm really excited about where we're going with the 50-state defense program. We announced this at the June conference. I'm pleased to say that Tony Aboud has spent a significant amount of time making sure that we have the resources for this program, and we do. Again, we're facing an organized threat against our industry, and the challenge has always been that the lobbying effort in the states was expected to be carried on the backs of small businesses, on small retailers, on small wholesalers and manufacturers, and we stepped in through our board's leadership, through Tony's leadership, and said enough is enough. We have to get the whole industry behind this. We have to fund a 50-state unified joint defense program, and we've been able to do that. And so how the program works, for those of you who aren't currently involved, we did our first round of requests for funding through our existing state associations. So a lot of those state associations have lobbyists. They need help funding them. We agreed to do that. We got applications from all our state trade associations and then some. So we're going to have some new members based on this program. Really excited about that. I'm really excited we're able to step up and help the industry in that way. So how it works is really simple. State vapor associations submit a brief application identifying their structure, their needs, the amount they spend on their lobbying contract, a little bit about their lobbyists. And then funding is distributed through two contracts then, one with the State Trade Association, one directly with VTA, and to pay that lobbyist. And so the one thing that we've been pointing out is, you know, this isn't an opportunity for your lobbyist to say, hey, Tony, you need to double my fee. This is really a joint partnership between the state associations and VTA to make sure that we're able to meet those financial commitments across all of our states, and that you guys can focus on what you do every day, which is keep people from smoking. So we couldn't wait till January to see where their fires are burning. And since I'm a hog farmer, I have to make one pig reference, a presentation. This is it. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And that's something that we've really been concerned about, and something that we're going to work hard against in the 2019 legislative sessions. So I'm glad a number of our state groups are here, as well as the Florida Trade Association. We're going to be sending out letters in the coming days, formal letters with how much every state's going to be awarded. We're going to be sharing that with every state, so there be full transparency there. And we're really excited to roll out this first round of funding, and then we're still working on more states. We've been helping states who don't currently have lobbyists, interview them, prepare for next session, and onboarding new states. So really excited about that, and really excited now that the election's closed to be able to get all the letters out to the existing state associations and make sure that we're in a really good position for next session. So federal success does not equate to state success. The FDA is slow to act according to state legislative bodies, so this will drive legislators forward to bring up typically bad policy ideas next session. Once one flavor ban passes at the state level, more are sure to follow. So we have to act now. We have to work hard going into next session. I know everybody in this room will. And thank you so much for allowing me to be here today, and I'm happy to open it up for questions. Thank you so much.